If I tell you right here and now, you guys listen to our message, and life is going to go great for you. Not only just positive psychology for you, but we're going to bless you. And if you have a demon, we'll hit you on the little forehead and make you fall down, and then maybe you'll rise back to life, and you'll be fully blessed in every kind of way. Okay, we don't have that power. And every single person who claims to have that power, I am tremendously skeptical of, and I hope you are as well.
Some people like to believe that they know God's will is to always keep us healing, to keep our bodies full and fit.
Right.
And I've just been contemplating and thinking about that a lot because the people I'm around talk about that.
Sorry to hear that.
It's okay. And I'm just wondering your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
What do you think about it?
Isn't it too bad that Jesus didn't have enough faith? Because, man, that dude suffered one of the most painful deaths possible. He obviously didn't have enough faith. That's why he suffered the way he did. That's why he was rejected the way he was. That's why he didn't have enough money to buy off Pontius Pilate and escape the cross. I mean, if you're going to follow a human being, a person who claims to be God in human form, and he goes through the rejection and the suffering that Christ went through, and then you're going to turn around and say, well, if I have enough faith, I'm not going to be poor and I'm not going to have health problems. I don't know what you're smoking, man, but you're so out of touch with reality, it's scary. I'll tell you what that is. That's a human-based, selfish gospel. That's what that is. That's what the health, wealth gospel is. If you have enough faith, you won't get sick and you will not get poor. Ah, baloney. The vast majority of followers of Christ who live in Africa, South America, and Asia fall far below the level of income that we have in the West. And that doesn't mean that they have lack of faith. It means they're born into an unfair, messed up world. Stuart, what do you think?
Teachers will be judged more harshly. That's pretty, I mean, out of James, right? That's a pretty intense verse that you need to take seriously. And so a pastor who raises money, $54 million for a jet, I think is in a lot of danger. Because what you're doing is you're preying off of oftentimes a lot of the poor. And what you're doing is you are taking money from people and promising blessings, and you don't have that kind of power to promise a blessing over somebody's life. If I tell you right here and now, you guys listen to our message, and life is going to go great for you. Not only just positive psychology for you, but we're going to bless you. And if you have a demon, we'll hit you on the little forehead and make you fall down, and then maybe you'll rise back to life, and you'll be fully blessed in every kind of way. Okay, we don't have that power. And every single person who claims to have that power, I am tremendously skeptical of, and I hope you are as well. So we see this preying on the poor, preying on those who are suffering all the time in order to fill their pockets.
They say, like, it is God's will to heal, God's will to, like,
Yeah.
for you to prosper and such. And
Yep.
I mean, to an extent, they're not wrong.
Yeah.
But I feel like you said they abuse it.
Sure. Everybody wants this place to look more like heaven will be. And we are supposed to. See, everybody thinks heaven is just totally different dimension, which is true, but it's a totally different dimension in the sense of we are going to be somehow picked up by the angels and taken, transported to this other realm. No, that's not the case at all. This isn't Dune or something like that. What's going to happen is the earth will be redeemed and created anew right here, and we will have relationships. So yes, blessings, making each other grow in character, all of that is important and good. And you don't want to be somebody like the pillar saints who would sit on top of poles sticking up their butts for days at a time in order to deny themselves and definitely not accept any type of blessing in order to somehow get closer to God. So no, prosperity gospel and self-flagellation to get closer to God, neither of those are true. Jesus Christ did come to heal all of his miracles were for a purpose. See, that's the difference between Christ's miracles and, say, Egyptian miracles back then. Egyptian miracles and other civilizations who were claiming miracles, they were magic tricks typically. Jesus' miracles were to bless, to heal, to change people. And they weren't supernatural. People always say, oh, miracles are so supernatural. No, they're restoring nature to what it's supposed to be, so they're very natural. So see, that's the whole deal over, it's not about self-flagellation. I'm going to deny myself, I'm going to live out a type of my calling to be poor in every way, just give everything away, and I have a family, and they're going to starve to death or live a horrible type of life. No, I don't think Christ calls you to that. And I definitely don't think he calls you to a type of prosperity gospel. So understanding, yes, we will have blessings, we follow Christ, but you will suffer greatly as well. Christ suffered, Paul suffered, Job suffered, David suffered. The list goes on. And just about all the eyewitnesses eventually went to their death through martyrdom in some pretty painful kinds of ways. So understanding the balance, we can grow through suffering. There is prosperity oftentimes, but for the majority of people, real prosperity is not going to come until heaven comes to earth.
Why would, in your worldview, God basically, it almost seems like set or give people different opportunities to get to heaven or hell?
Yeah.
And how does that coincide with free will when it seems like in general so many people tend to just follow the religion into which they were born?
So just because my parents told me that Jesus is the truth doesn't mean that he's not the truth, right?
Yeah.
So becoming an adult means you have to think for yourself. And the majority of my atheist friends grew up in Christian homes. Okay? So just because you grew up in a home that taught something doesn't mean you have to follow it. You have a free will, you're responsible. Is God going to judge me differently from a guy who was born in Papua New Guinea and never heard about Christ? You bet. God is going to judge us according to what we had as opportunities. God is not going to judge us based on our ignorance. So because God is all-knowing, he's in a position to judge each one of us uniquely, fairly, and justly.
Say someone follows a different religion that they were taught and that they believe to be true.
Yeah.
You think God will judge them in a way, like, I presume that if they were exposed to Christianity, you would say they would go to hell. But what if they believe just as much as you that their religion is true?
Good.
Or what if an atheist believes that
You bet.
they're right?
This pink elephant, you know the one right here? This pink elephant gives my life meaning, purpose, and direction. This pink elephant is awesome.
I'd say your pink elephant is the same thing as you saying that God exists. So like
Good.
what how come you get to decide that your God is the correct God?
Okay, I don't decide that my God is the correct God. The question is the evidence supporting the pink elephant who's right here?
No.
Thank you. No. Does the evidence support some type of a God existing?
No.
No?
I'd say no one can actually know if God. I'd say I'm agnostic because I don't believe anyone could actually know that God exists.
I think it's impossible to live an agnostic life because you have to make ethical decisions every day, and the ethical decisions you make tattle what you really believe. You have to make a decision every day. Are people valuable or are they trash? The decision you make shows what you really believe about reality. You have to make a decision every day. That guy in that casket or in that urn, is there life after death or not? You have no decision, you have no option. You have to decide. So you see, sir, the decisions that you make tattle what you really believe. So please don't tell me you're agnostic.
I'm still agnostic. Like that doesn't show that. I'm saying that I believe that no one can believe that no one can truly know if their God is correct or not. Like I don't believe that you can truly be 100% sure.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
I'm not 100% sure that I'm not a bad dream you're having right now.
Yeah. that would
Okay?
be correct.
All right, so we agree on that.
Yes.
I can't prove anything 100%.
Correct.
But guess what? As a thinking human being, I don't base my life on proof. I base my life on evidence. The evidence is that his face starts right there. That's why my fist stops here. Not because I can prove to you 100% that he's right here. Maybe my eyesight's lying to me.
But they're like, yeah, that's true, but we tend to just go off the presupposition that our senses like work. But
No, I don't go off a presupposition that my senses work. I experience this.
that's a sense.
Yeah.
So
Well, I'm not presupposing that my senses tell me the truth. I'm experiencing this. And I know very well that if I smack him, there's going to be contact. Why? Because the evidence of my experience tells me that's true. Because I've been hit and didn't feel good. So the evidence is that, yes, my senses perceive reality. That's why I trust my senses.
Well, but that's a circular position. So you trust your senses in a
Because
circular
my
way.
no, I experience my senses putting me in touch with reality. That's why I trust my senses.
So you have no presuppositions, like.
Yes, I have presuppositions, but I can promise you, as a thinking person, I'm going to question those presuppositions and I'm going to ask why. Why have I embraced those presuppositions? And the reason that I have embraced the presupposition that my senses perceive reality is because I experience contact, touch, and I talk with him and we find out yes. Now, why do you trust your reason?
My point is, reason is a presupposition. Like, there is nothing to base it off of, but we act as if it exists. Same thing with your senses. When you're saying that you touch him and you believe that you're touching him, in general, science would say that you could theoretically put your hand and one in like hundreds of billions of times it would go through him. That's
Yeah.
the thing that's said in science. Do you disagree with that?
I sure do.
So you disagree?
There's-
So you disagree with science?
Yeah, walk through
Yeah.
the tree. Please,
Well, I'm
go
telling
right
you
ahead.
that
Walk
it's
through the
insanely
tree.
unlikely because the particles are moving, but in
Yeah,
general,
the particles are moving, and your particles are moving. So why can't
Correct.
you walk through the tree?
Well, theoretically, you could. In science.
Theoretically.
Just
Baloney.
because
I
it's-
can't
just
base
because
my
it
life on
seems
theoretical.
Crazy doesn't mean that in science it can't theoretically happen. I know it sounds crazy, but
Thank you. It sure does sound
in
crazy.
science that does happen.
Oh, no, it does not happen. I have never watched a man or a woman walk through a tree.
I've never watched someone be resurrected.
Good. But guess what? You do know that existence is real, that life is real. And so now you've got to ask yourself the question, is it more reasonable to believe that life comes from non-life, that existence is produced by non-existence, or is it more reasonable to believe that life comes from life and that existence comes from a creator? What's more plausible? Not what you can prove. I know you can't prove anything, neither can I. But what is more plausible? What is more reasonable in light of the evidence?
Yes.
That's what you got to ask. And don't give me this garbage that, oh no, science has to prove something in order for me to believe it. Science has nothing to say about love. It has nothing to say about meaning in life. It has nothing to say about life after death. Nothing. Because science deals with what you can observe, what you can quantify. And you can't observe and quantify love, meaning, and whether there's life after death or not. It's far more reasonable to believe that morals come not from matter, but that morals come from a personal being who defines what's right and wrong. It's far more reasonable to believe that life comes from life. It is not reasonable for any of you guys to believe life comes from non-life. Oh, that's a miracle, guys. The only problem is you guys don't have a miracle worker. There's no God for you.
Hold on.
No, don't hold on. Think. Think hard. Think accurately. Life does not come from non-life. Never. Can you show me life coming from non-life? And yet you guys believe in a miracle.
No.
Life comes from non-life at the
We believe
inception.
in low probability things.
Oh,
sometimes
baloney.
happen.
Low probability
Baloney.
did not make him.
Yes, it did.
No, it did
You're
not.
actually- that's 100% what happened.
No. He has a mom and a
Literally all
dad.
genetics.
He has a
Yeah,
mom and a
all
dad.
genetics
He
says
doesn't
that.
have low probability made you, buddy.
What?
Aren't you lucky, a sucker?
This is the most. This is like the craziest argument ever.
I think you are a little bit
Genetics-
crazy. I
genetics-
think you are.
Think about this. Genetics. Right?
Yeah, genetics.
Yeah. What is the probability of his exact genetic code happening? 100%?
Sir, you're making a classic mistake of the observation of different sperm and different eggs. Gosh, what's the probability? That doesn't create anything. That's a statistical fact, okay?
Statistical.
But that doesn't create him. What creates him is a mom and a dad, two living beings creating him. You don't get life from a statistic. And by the way, you don't win the lottery because of a statistic. You win the lottery by buying a ticket. And that's my whole point. Science is a wonderful description of reality. But I can promise you, science doesn't create. Science describes creation. It describes life. Bravo. But you can't say science made this guy. No, science didn't make him.
So God made humans, right?
Yeah, God made humans.
Why did he give them leukemia, though?
He didn't. Human beings rebelled against God. We went over this already in Genesis chapter 3. When we rebelled against God, that's where things got messed up.
I mean, I didn't rebel against God.
Oh, yes, you have.
Okay, so what's your...
So have I, by the way. I've rebelled against God also.
Sure, so all those little toddlers who get leukemia, because they do, and that's very sad. They deserved it?
No, they didn't deserve it, but they are born into an unfair world, a messed up world.
Yes, but that is an evil explicitly created by God.
No, it is not.
That is not
It is
out
a
of
free
anywhere
decision
else.
to rebel against God. And
Wait, so
when
the
people make that
toddler
free
made
decision...
the free decision to rebel against God, which is why he got leukemia.
No, false. The guy gets leukemia because he's born into an unfair, broken, messed up world. That's the world I was born into. That's the world all of you were born into.
So, wait, remind me, the world is messed up and broken, which is why the kid gets leukemia. What made the world messed up and broken again?
Human beings rebelled against God.
But human
Like
beings
Eden,
weren't-
or are we talking like in general? Us right now?
We're talking about our forefathers and foremothers, and me and you. We've all rebelled against God,
Okay,
and that
but
leads
you
to
believe in
destructiveness.
determinism.
So
No, I don't
but
believe.
this is-
You have to believe in determinism.
I do.
Good, bravo, well done.
Thanks. Yeah.
Good.
I believe in that
Smack.
viewpoint.
Smack. Why'd you hit her, Cliff? Because I had to. It was
Well,
determined
no,
that I hit her.
It's not I had to.
Oh, yes, it is if you believe in
happened.
determinism.
It's not I had to, it happened.
Oh, it happened.
Yes,
Yeah,
correct.
baloney.
What do you mean baloney?
Determinism means it has been determined that I hit her.
Yes, correct. Well,
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
right, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, and my point is, if I hit her, turn to you and you ask me, why'd you hit her? And I say, because I had to. It was determined. You know I'm lying through my teeth, I hope.
well,
That's not at all
That's
what
not what
determinism
yeah,
is, to
yeah.
the extent that
Determinism means it has been determined. Determinism means I don't have a choice. It's been determined. Let's be honest with our language, guys.
I'm being honest.
No, you're not.
Yes, I completely am. I said I believe in determinism. If you hit her, it wasn't. There's nothing of you that makes it your fault. There is no your fault.
Good.
It's just inputs and outputs.
Good.
How you're genetic. I
Yeah.
fully believe in determinism. I'm not lying.
But you can't live it out.
Yes, I can.
If
Every
I
word
smack
that's coming
her,
out of my mouth
are you going to
has
hold
been
that me
criticized.
responsible for smacking her or not?
What do you mean?
Are you going to say,
There
Cliff,
is no
it
you.
was wrong? There's no, good. I like you.
Yes,
Very good. There's no
consistent, I know
you.
it's like you.
And I would insist you are wrong, and it's proven by you how you live your life.
No.
Hey, this woman says I love you, and you say, I understand, you have to love me. You don't live that way, man. And if I smack her, you're not going to say, oh, Cliff, you had to smack her. And if I'm racist, you're not going to say,
Well,
oh,
using
Cliff,
the
I
word-
understand. You have to be racist.
No, that's the worst mischaracterization. It's inputs and outputs that create racist people. That's the way to characterize it.
Oh, I see.
Yes.
So all my white racist friends have input and output,
Yes.
and they just have to do what they're determined to do.
Have to do it. It just comes to.
Oh, come on now.
Inputs and outputs.
Determinism means
is what it
there's
means.
no you. You just do what you're programmed to do.
Yeah, that's true.
Thank you.
You're
So
doing
be
what you're programmed
consistent.
to do.
And I'm standing here saying, my white racist friends, I got to look them in the face and say, you're wrong, and you better change your behavior.
And maybe that will be an input that changes their behavior. And that input comes, and you saying that comes from things that happen to you. And things that happened to you come from other inputs and outputs.
Yeah.
Okay.
Determinism.
Let me
Well, I don't agree with you because
I
I
know,
don't
we
think.
disagree.
Exactly.
It's okay.
I don't think that my behavior is determined by my bad potty training from my mom and dad. I insist.
It's one of your inputs.
No, it's not.
Yes, it
My behavior is a result of my free choice.
Okay, quick question.
I disagree.
Wait.
Don't interrupt. We're with him, and we'll get to you.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
I mean-
I'm building off of his.
No, forget it. He's talking. Go ahead.
I completely disagree. I think every word that's coming out of my mouth,
Yes.
all this vocabulary, like
Right.
everything I know,
Right.
comes from inputs and outputs. all of my beliefs come from inputs and outputs.
Yeah.
I disagree with you because of inputs and outputs. If I was in your situation and I grew up like you, I had the exact same genetics, I would be standing there like you, and you would be standing here like me.
Okay.
Inputs and outputs.
So yes, determinism possibly is right. But if a dude, all right, come here, you dude with a beard. Let me hear a second. All right. So this guy comes around a corner with a stack of books under his arm. I haul back, smack him as hard as I can. I'm hauled into a court of law. I stand before a judge, and the judge says, "Hey, Cliff, why on earth did you go up and smack this guy as hard as you can?" I say, "It's very simple, Your Honor. I grew up with an abusive father, and my abusive father had a little balding, gray hair like this, and whenever he would abuse me, he would take a big book and slam me over the head. And this dude just so reminded me of my abusive father that I had to haul back and hit him."
Yes.
The judge will say, "Cliff, I'm really sorry that you had that kind of abusive father.
Yes.
But you are still responsible for hauling back and punching him." The legal system in the United States, I am glad, is based not on determinism, it is based on the free will that we all have, which means we are responsible for what we do.
I don't think that, I think that in general, people who were abused, do you agree, tend to abuse more in the future? Do you disagree with that?
I don't think that a person who's been abused has to be an abuser.
They don't have to, because there are other inputs and outputs. But if someone is abused, it seems like in general they tend to abuse more.
Does
Do you disagree
anybody
with that?
love you?
I really hope so.
Well, then if you hope so, it means you value love, right?
Well, yeah, but I would disagree with what love is when you say it.
And I respect your intellectual consistency. I respect it highly. You're living it out. And I think it's scary.
Why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because it means that I am not responsible for what I do. What I do has been determined.
I don't want to make it political, but things that, for example, structural racism, stuff that has happened in the past leads to things in the future.
Right.
This is where these ideas come from.
Yeah.
Things that happen in the past affect what happens in the future.
Yeah.
Right? And if you take all the inputs and outputs of the world that happened in the past, that is why we are where we are today, and what is happening the way it is today.
Okay.
That's the idea.
I disagree.
Okay, yeah. That's
You know why? I respect Harriet Tubman. I respect Gandhi. I respect Mother Teresa. Well, why, Cliff? Why do you respect those people? Because obviously they didn't have to do what they did. Instead, they chose to contradict their culture. They chose to contradict their upbringing. And they chose to fight the caste system, to fight slavery at the cost of their lives. That's why I respect them. I don't respect them because they had to do what they did. And I don't excuse a racist because you grew up in a racist environment, and so therefore you have to hate people of different ethnic heritages. Baloney. You don't have to hate anybody. You choose to hate, you choose to love. You choose to forgive, or you choose to stick it to a person who's hurt you. That's my experience of reality, guys. Now, if your experience is different, so be it. But I think you're lying to yourself and you're lying to me. You know very well that you respect Gandhi, Dr. Martin Luther King, Abraham Lincoln. Why? Because they contradicted their culture. They contradicted their environment. They followed their conscience instead of following the status quo. Now, if you don't respect those people for that reason, fine.
You respect the things they
Tell me why you respect them. Well, I don't respect them, Cliff. Well, there would be another disagreement that you and I would have.
I don't think they exist anymore, for example.
All right.
The people who are dead.
All right. I feel like paying you for standing out here and going at it with me. I cannot thank you enough. And I really respect your intellectual consistency. I am sick and tired of talking to atheists who say, oh no, they're moral objective truths. Baloney, you know they're not. I know they're not, if there is no God.
Yes.
If there is no God, it's all a pile of chemicals, and we're just living out our chemical reactions.
Correct.
Correct. Except when you go home tonight, you can't treat your roommate that way, and you can't treat the woman you're dating that way unless you want to blow up your relationship fairly fast.
What do you mean? When I go home and I do the things I do, it's because of inputs and outputs. When I treat someone well, it's because I've been taught to treat people well.
No.
Yes.
It's because you make a decision about
it isn't.
how to handle those inputs and those outputs.
Well, your chemical structure
Yeah.
makes a decision.
The point, I agree with you. There are chemical reactions in the brain. We agree. My point is, there is still a you that makes a decision how you're going to treat your chemical inputs and outputs.
Of the chemical structures. You
Yep.
believe there's something that, but you would agree we can't point to that thing, and we can't.
That's
There's nothing
right.
to
It's
point to.
not material.
But it's nothing. There is
No, it is very real.
Not material. There's no evidence of this.
Oh, yes, there is.
No, there is.
Yes, there is. Your brain, I can physically dissect your head and touch your brain and analyze it. Your thoughts, I don't have any access physically to your thoughts.
Well, wait. Yes, you.
No, I
What
don't.
You do.
I cannot take your thoughts and
wait,
put them in a
that's
test tube. I can take your brain and put it in a test tube, but I
yeah,
cannot
but-
take your thoughts.
But you can connect things to my brain and see what I'm thinking.
No, I cannot
That's
see your
fine.
motives.
Not-
I cannot see your
Oh, you're
motives.
changing it now, though. But you can know what someone is thinking about. You can know if someone, for example, let's say someone connects something to your brain, they can see and puts up a thing, and they're like, "Do you agree with this?" They can tell if your brain agrees with it or not.
I make a decision.
Okay.
In other words, not the chemicals made a
What made you
decision.
make that decision?
Yes.
A lot of different issues.
A lot of
No.
Environment, genetic makeup, will, free will, love, forgiveness.
Okay.
Some of them are very tangible, like genetics, like my environment, and others of them are intangible, like love, forgiveness, compassion, empathy.
And
That's
what
why I
made
do
you
it.
Feel those things.
Pardon?
What made you feel those things? And
I
then
can change my mind. You can change your
you can
mind.
change your mind, but you
Yep.
have to will to change your mind.
There you go.
Where did that will come from?
It came from my soul, from me,
Okay.
from my
And where did
rational
that-
mind,
and where
my
did that come
conscience,
from?
my emotions. That comes
Where-
from God.
Yeah.
That
yeah.
comes
Those
from
are
God, so you
God-given
have to-
gifts.
So,
But if there is no God, those gifts do not exist. There's no part, it's not a chemical. My will is part of my soul, an intangible soul that I have because God made me a body, yes, chemicals, yes, but also a soul, intangible consciousness.
okay, for the sake of contradiction, let's assume there's a soul, right? This soul willed something, right? It wills you to want to consume alcohol. It wills you to want to go outside. It wills you to study your calculus homework. Some part of you wills it, and then that happens. Some part of your soul, some part of whatever intangible sense,
Thank you.
it has been willed, right?
Thank you.
You do what you will,
Uh-huh.
yeah. And if you want to change that will, part of you needs to will that, right?
Part of you,
Soul, in sense,
all
I'm
right,
not
the
going to
free
get into
will
the
that we
syntactical
have
problem here.
chooses to do that.
Yeah. So if you choose to do that, you chose to do that because of something else, right? Like if I choose to stop consuming alcohol, I had to want to not consume alcohol.
I chose to think
What
through the
made you
consequences of
What
alcoholism.
made you want to will through the consequences?
What made what?
What made you want to look through the consequences of consuming alcohol?
Because I got some buddies who are alcoholics.
Okay. So
I saw how they destroyed themselves through their alcoholism,
Okay.
and I decided I don't want to go down that path. And I got other buddies who crammed too much fat into their bodies and their arteries are clogged. And I decided I'd like to see my grandchildren get married. So I'm not going to put cholesterol into my body.
So what you're saying is that it's something outside of yourself.
And what I'm saying is I made an observation of reality,
Okay.
and based on my observation of reality, I made some decisions.
How can you say that you have free will if your will originated from something outside of yourself?
Because we've gone over this and you're not listening.
I
I
think
told
you're
you
not.
flat out, your will is a gift from God.
Yes.
I didn't create my will, you don't create your will. We're born with it. We're born with a conscience, we're born with a rational mind, we're born with a will. Those are gifts that God has given every single one of us.
Okay.
Now the question is, how are you going to use those gifts?
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this episode. Hit that subscribe button. We love for you to join the family. Also, want to invite you to our church in New Canaan, Connecticut. It's New Canaan High School, and it meets Sundays at 9:30 a.m.